my dad worked on the barges, and he used to go up to Nottingham, and he met my mum, and she lived in Nottingham,
right.
and she was swimming in the Trent, and he shouted, "Do you fancy going to the pictures, darling?" and that was it. And she was 16, I think he was 20, and she came to live on the barge. They had 4 children on the barge. It was tough for my mum, but my mum was a tough cookie. You don't live on a barge with 4 kids. And she'd have her shopping in a tea, the kid on either arm, 2 trailing, going up ladders, and jumping from ladders onto the barge and stuff,
The day we took them, we didn't get up because the bridges were jammed with the heat, so we had a problem there. We had to stop overnight and then go out very early in the morning so as we could get under the bridges.
What causes the bridges to jam?
Well, it's the metal expands.
Wow.
So especially the swing ones, but the lifting ones was jamming as well. Well, one of the worst ones used to be Sutton Road Bridge, which is a fairly old one. That used to jam, and they used to come along. But I was looking at some old photographs the other day, and I saw one where in 1957, I think it was, and there was the fire brigade was spraying one of the bridges with water to cool it down so it opened, and that's going way back. So it's been a thing that's been happening for years.
I think at the time I became a registered lighterman, there were 400 lightermen in Hull.
Really?
How many lighters there are, I couldn't estimate, but the river was packed with lighters. And what the job of a lighterman was to man these craft, which were basically craft without engines. They were just a floating box with a tiller on one end and a bit of an anchor at the other. The registered lighterman's work was restricted to the River Hull.
Right.
So no one else could do it but a registered lighterman. So other lighterman barges couldn't work those places which was restricted to registered lightermen. And having become a lighterman, it was then used to go to the pen, which was the docker's control, and the first men up for workers would be the lighter foreman. They used to stand on this wall, and they'd say, "I want so many men," and you'd go and give him your book, and you were then employed for however long they wanted you. It was sort of a casual employment. You were fully employed by the National Dock Labour Board, and the lighter firms used to hire you as required. So when they had a rush of work, they could come in and get so many lightermen to do it. Then when that was done, they just sent them back. So there was no retaining pay for them or anything. You would then, so the lighter foreman would come and pick you up. He'd say, right, well, I want you to go to such and such a berth on the River Hull, number so-and-so's there, take it from there to the docks. A tug would come and you'd latch onto the tug and he would take it to the docks. You would then moor that lighter, and then the foreman at the dock would then direct you to wherever your next job would be. And it would maybe say, right, number so-and-so, will you take it to such and such a ship? You're loading pound kernels for chambers from Pargus. Pound kernels were the basic nut that was crushed for palm oil.
Right.
And you would load the bulk nuts. Usually came in bags on the steamers, which were lifted out, put on the deck side and emptied down a chute into the lighter.
Right.
So it became a bulk cargo, whereas it was a bag cargo in the ship. From there, you would perhaps load that would be a job. You'd finish that, it'd take it to such and such a berth in the dock and it would sit there.
Every year we used to do it. 4 days. Sparby Street Drain, yeah. We call it Sparby Street Drain, like, with a raft. And nobody put the rope on, you see.
What was we? You and your pals?
I've got him here, look.
Right,
That's
okay.
me. That's me, mate. And John Hudson's down there, they're just getting him out. There was 3 of us. And when we was young kids, 1958, how old was I? About 12, 11, I think, something like that. Yeah. And nobody put the rope on. And we were sailing into where it is. It's River Hull, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got rescued. Well, me and him jumped off up there. And
So, what did you make the raft out of?
wood.
How did it, I mean,
It didn't hardly float, no. It wasn't. We used to do them every year, every summer.
Yeah.
Every summer, and our main was to sail up to Sutton.
Yeah.
But it never happened.
That was your mission? To go
Yeah,
to
it never happened when we was young. It was the highest tide they've ever had as well. No, I'm at the front. That's Hudson who didn't jump off the raft. We jumped off and a couple of swims and was ashore like. But even
You stayed on it?
yeah,
Why
it was.
did he jump off?
He can't swim.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
He couldn't swim, so and he was shouting right down the what they call it. Oh, it went right under North Bridge, right under the the road and everything. It went under there, and you could hear him shouting, "Help! Help me!" And got the fire brigade and the police, and even the policeman couldn't him. I don't know. That's the policeman. I don't. I think he wanted rescuing. Look at him.
Boy for whom death took a holiday. My mates called me Killer.
Yeah, that was my nickname years ago, yeah. Well, it's still though, when you're in town, you see all your mates from then, and my wife bust out laughing. No, then Killer, because that's how you knew me. That's the only thing they knew me by. Well, and the policeman you had to rescue him. 1958.
And the raft was swept into...
On my brother's wedding day.
Neville. Oh, was it?
Yeah, they all went in pub while we went messing about.
Hudson Stead disappeared under the road. So what was going through your mind when that happened then, when you disappeared down the street?
I don't know, I can't remember now. And it said my other mate, Dennis Swatman, he rescued, he didn't, he only come up to there. He went like that, come on, get
Hudson's head was only 9 inches from the roof of the culvert.
Yeah.
So did you witness the rescue then?
No, we run away, we went. Before the police come, but they come to our house, they knew where, they got to know where.
We had a barge in Princess Dock, and it went down. It was full of sugar, and of course all the fish that were in the dock came to the surface.
Drunk,
yeah. And people had a great time scooping them out,
you'll know when they brought the dung barges round from the docks, as Nev said,
yeah.
if they filled them full of grain or something from the big ships in the docks. They had Rankses, Joseph Rank, who had the big mill near Drypool Bridge. They had lots and lots of dung barges, didn't they? It was a massive fleet.
It used to be laid out into the
yes,
river.
dung, no engines, just a rudder and two guys. And Gilliat and Scott, who were a massive storage company, they had lots, didn't they? But we had a tug, we had a tug called the Gillian Knight.
That's right, yeah.
Which was owned by Gilliat and Scott, which was a huge company in Hull.
Yeah.
She'd go into the docks with Jack and Tom, that was the crew members for years. And then what they'd do is, it was hilarious because I remember as a young chap thinking, crikey, what they'd do is they'd come from the docks to pier, round up, face you always face the tide, and then you go in, and then they'd just let them go.
Let them go, 4 or 5.
So they'd maybe be 4, 5, maybe 6 with 300 or 400 tons worth of cargo in with no engine.
Just going up river.
Bang! Purely relying
Just
on
sling
the
them
tide.
into River Hull, didn't they?
So you could be coming down in the middle of the night, pitch black, no lights.
They had no lights, did they?
And
no,
then
no lights.
possibly the first mate on the bow would shout, barges. You couldn't see them, and then you'd hear bang, 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 and they'd be trying to get out of your.
Gives a towel.
But there was no real. Talk about rules of the road, give way to starboard, or what you get in with your deep sea, and there was none of that. It was a free for all.
If you went like we did up to Hatfield, and you come maybe 4 or 5 boats in front of you, you might not get loaded that day, so you're there all day till the next day. We once played rugby in the bloody Old, one of the Olds.
Played rugby?
Yes, and football, and some of the call would come over because it was like half and half, so you could carry different cargoes.
Right.
Yeah.
Come over, we were playing bloody football and rugby in there, come out black.
Yeah.
We used to play football on the side of Ocean Lock.
Yeah.
Because if it'd been foggy and you couldn't go down, just get all go together and play football or something on the side of the lock.
Brilliant time.
Just because you had like 6 hours to wait for the next tide, so.
It's quite large families in those days. My father was one of 11, but he also regaled about things like being a 12-year-old, one of his trips, going up to Beverley Beck, waiting for a cargo, and his dad said, right, you stay there, here's a shilling, and get yourself 2 pictures, get yourself some food, I'm off home for the weekend. And I don't think he cycled, like I heard the thing, but he would have got back to Thorn and then come back on the Monday to get loaded up, but left a 12-year-old looking after the barge.
After the barge, right.
And it was my dad's turn to do it. He was the youngest because all the others had become mates, skippers, whatever, through the time all over the place.
And what did he think to that as a 12-year-old then?
He thought it was the norm.
Yeah, right.
And that was it. And I remember going on a similar trip, but not up the Hull. We went to Rotherham, and he just said, right there you are, first time on the boat, here's the wheel. And he went down and made a cup of tea. Well, I was going up the canal, like.
The Hull end of the River Hull still has working barges. Basically, there are two firms still moving vessels. Ricks, the fuel people, have large barges which still provide bunkering services to vessels that come into Hull docks. They used to transport fuel on the waterway system, but unfortunately, because of changes of legislation, that's stopped. But Mainmast, which is a barge and lighterage company, still operates up to Cargill's and Croder on the River Hull, sort of within the Hull boundary, and that's one of the reasons why the bridges remain movable and so on, because it has to be moved for those. There's also some movement of commercial vessels into dry docks, or at least a dry dock on the River Hull itself. So there is still some commercial movement.
So all those bridges have to keep working?
all of the bridges have to keep working, and Hull City Council employs bridge operatives to do that, and a harbour master to supervise all of the movements.
So when you sail a Sintand on the Hull, do they lift the bridges down?
It depends on the state of the tide. Generally, what we try and do is that we will be going down on a rising tide, actually, by the time we get into Hull where the bridges start. And so we can often get under the first few bridges without them being lifted just by folding the wheelhouse and taking the chimney off. But by the time we get down into the heart of the city, the bridges have to be open for us. And that's, I'm sure, the result of a lot of people cursing us because they get held up on their way home or whatever. But it's also part of the history of the city that these bridges have always been movable, and that these problems have been something that they had to contend with.
The reason for lighters was that cargoes could be offloaded from ships, put into a lighter and left. So, and then be used as required. So the ship would be finished and that would be gone, but the cargo may still well be in the docks. Thousands of tonnes of palm kernels could be left in the dock. The mill could handle, say, 180 tonnes a day, 1 litre a day. So then there would be dripped out 1 litre a day to the mill, and the cargo would then be used as required, you know.
Yeah.
One of the unique things about lighters was that they were handled, they were towed by tugs from dock to the River Hull. At the River Hull at North Bridge, or between Drypool, before they got to Drypool Bridge, the tug knocked you off, and the lighter was then on its own. You didn't have any power, you didn't have any means of controlling it apart from what we called a dredging weight at the fore end and a tiller at the after end. And you used to get that lighter from there to the berth, wherever it was, up Premier, perhaps at Clough Road, wherever it was, and just by drifting it and control it. So you've got a tide of, say, 4 or 5 knots and a lighter that's going backwards, but through the water as perhaps a speed of 1 knot, so a controllable speed, but only at the end of an anchor. And you used to have to find your berth we became cowboys. You had to be able to lasso with your rope, lasso things so that you could moor up and things like that, you know. There was no help, but just your own skills at mooring it. You had a boat up which you could help you know, to catch hold of things and help.
Yeah, that was the old bridges, yeah. Oh, that was ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, that was crazy. Plenty of headroom unless you're tall.
Dug down.
I was just getting into the lift. Wow, it's quite amazing, isn't it?
Is it John on the wheel still, yeah?
Was on motorboats before, so this is what, like, when you went for your lighterman's boat, they wanted to know you'd done it before. You know, they didn't want you if you hadn't done it before.
Right.
So, like, you know, and they wanted to know who you'd worked for, and you know, and all 3 of us was all on motorboats beforehand.
Right.
So it was all greenhorns when we went lightering.
Right.
Yeah. So I was all in the same boat, like,
Yeah.
I'm Geoffrey Shipman, but my granddad, initially he worked in a warehouse at Brough, but he was soon working on the River Hull as a docker, but he was a young lad. And because he was a young lad, the dockers would send him to the illegal bookie with their cash vets. and he must have been quite bright, because he soon worked out he came back a lot lighter than he went, and so he started standing the bets himself, which must have taken some arithmetical knowledge, because he would have to work out you know, what the odds were, what horses won.
Or just sheer bravado.
Oh, bravado. But I wouldn't like to have, you know, tried to pull the wool over the dockers if it, you know, if it was telling porky pies. So he then obviously made some money. He set himself up officially as a commission agent, which was a legal bookmaker on Holderness Road, taking bets on credit, but the real money was to be made obviously in cash bets. So eventually he ended up owning a club, a working men's club on Queen's Dockside, where Queen's Gardens is now.
Right.
He bought a posh house in Ferriby. That was by 1914, before 1914, and he couldn't drive, but he hired a chauffeur, he had a housekeeper, and I think he'd done pretty well for himself. I think rather than follow the family tradition, working on the Humber on the boats probably was a wise decision.
Yeah.
And he did tell my mother that if the war had lasted another year till 1919, he would have actually been a millionaire.
For example, you were walking to your lighter and you found a ship's mooring rope that had snapped, and the end was left on the bollard with the eye in it, and maybe 10 foot of rope. That was a big heavy rope made of manila. Wow, got a start. So you would then take that aboard, and then you would search for every bit of manila rope that you could find. Now, one of the hardest things about lightering was that you were only provided with mooring ropes on the lighter, which were big, heavy ropes and towing ropes. You never had any ropes that, you know, I talked about lassoing.
Yeah.
You never had any ropes that you could do that with. So if you found a bit of rope anywhere that was we called it handy, you would get that and use it to help you mooring, to help you get the craft about and whatever. It was made of manila, and if you got a start on what you were going to sell, you would then search every lighter and pinch every bit of manila that was available until you had as much as possible.
Put it down the forks. Somebody would
down
see you and beat you to it.
Come and pinch it, won't it? Yeah. And then when you got up the harbour, because you knew the light you was taking was going past these recyclers, you would offload it, take it, 2 or 3 quid in your pocket. And
hence the term money
use
for rope.
And worked on the Bluebird for Donald Campbell. They built that at Gull.
Really?
Yes.
Was that the one that went on water? Yeah.
And not the racing one, his actual yacht, he called that Bluebird as well.
Right.
So,
And they built that?
Yeah.
Would that be metal construction and steel?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was all more iron and riveted, as most of the barges and that was in them days and that. But a lot of them used to get leaks, couldn't afford to stop, so we used to throw the ashes in out the stove, let them soak up into the crack or the hole where it was and block it, and then put a cement box from the inside, and then they'd carry on till they could afford to come out of water.
My mum was frightened to death. She was absolutely frightened to death. But of course, at that age, we had no fear whatsoever. We just enjoyed being there, and you know, to other people that we spoke to, our 6-week holiday was an adventure. Because of course we was actually travelling on this boat, and you know, coming down where the bunks were, you know, where we used to sleep, and we always remembered the stairway was always really red hot because of the belly boiler underneath.
Right.
And the smell and everything was just lovely, and condensed milk.
Yes. Smells to me. It smells
Warming, a real warming smell, but oily and working.
Pretty much similar
industrial
to now as well.
Yeah.
What you can smell now.
Yeah, but just real contented, you know, homely feeling about being, I suppose, being there with your family, and while your dad was working, and Mum sometimes used to go off and do the washing and come back, and you know, wherever we was travelling to, it was always obviously within some sort of reach.
Taking a lighter up to Premier, that was opposite Chamberlain Road, and to the Premier Mill, and it was what they call neat tides, and so we're having to assist it all the way. We're having to really push it to keep it going. Because Premier is one of the further points up the River Holt to get to. So we're having to push it. I'm pushing with the boat hook against some timber. The boat hook has a spike that you can stick in. The wood gave way and I went head first into the river. Pulled myself out. We put it alongside the jetty. Got my bike ashore and biked home because I only lived a bit up the road, and I went to the doctors on the night. I said I fell overboard. I did know that North Sea ferries were in for some men for their extra ships that were coming. I went to see the port doctor the next day. I had the L taken off my book. L meaning I was a lighterman. He supported me. He said, "Oh yes, you'd be frightened to death now. Take the L off." I was allocated to North Sea Ferries, and I became a truck driver at North Sea Ferries.
Right, okay.
You see, when Keith's just saying about him breaking that stour, that boat hook, there must have been a flaw in it because he never put it hard end back into anything. You know what I mean?
That stove is not original. That's the width of the stove, this top half. That's sort of a piece of the original, and it had an open fire, and that was it. And a hot, and they had a spirit stove, Primus, and that's all they had for heating. But this was a big cabin compared to some, and smaller than the real old ones. The real old ones are very fancy. Been on Comrade? Well, that is an original cabin, not quite as elaborate as some, but that's the general layout, the sloping back and all this. But yeah, I made this in shed from memory. Coal lockers, what you're sat on, and wood. Clothes in the drawers, because he used to go ashore drinking. What else? Oh, this ladder used to be that way. But I put it this way because anybody coming in put their hand on the fire. So it's just as
I worked for Gilliatt's and I was in the office, and of course my family before, they've all, shall we say, got their hands dirty, but I was the first one that didn't. And I learned that when I went to an aunt's funeral, and a cousin that I hadn't seen for about 30 years said, "Oh yeah," he said, "you're the one that didn't get his hands dirty." But I come from a long line of trawlermen, mainly engineers, and my great-great-grandfather took the first steam trawler from Holt to Newfoundland, and he opened a canning factory there.
But he maintained that he had a bit of jobs with school and that like that, and he ended up on the reform ship, HMS Southampton.
Yeah.
That was moored off Sammy's Point.
Yeah.
I mean, there is on photographs, you can see her in the distance, can't you? An old wooden wall warship, same type as the Victory. That's what she was, and she was moored there, and it was for the children who didn't go to school, the reform children. And that.
Right, so like
But there's no mention, you know, I don't know if there's any records where you can...
Yeah, there is.
And look, your granddad was.
Yeah, my granddad was on it.
Because he said that he actually learned how to make boats.
It was
they learned them things.
Yeah, it was my granddad Scott, the one that married the Herring girl, on my dad's side. His mother was left, and my granddad thought his father had walked out and left him, but he was actually killed.
Yes, yeah.
And my grandma was taking him washing because she had children to look after. And my granddad would sit on the step of the shop down Rugby Street. Yeah. And he'd go and he'd say, "Can I have a carton of evaporated milk?
Yes, yeah.
And can I have it on the slate?" And the owner thought he was taking it to grandma. It wasn't, he was drinking it. So in the end, he wouldn't go to school, so he had to go on the reform. And
how many it held?
It held about 150, I think it was.
Do you have your favourites that you preferred working?
No.
Yeah, not really.
Although there was one or two.
Smaller the better.
Yeah, there was one or two, like that Firecrest of Scots. Do you remember that one? Big
Number 17,
square,
big square,
a full thing. You couldn't steer it, you couldn't handle it.
Back end on it, no.
It had no shape, it was just literally a box. You couldn't steer it, it wouldn't follow the tug.
We dropped up harbour at half-tide once with that, me and Bill, and we, Chapman Street Bridge, the boatman there, Jesus Christ, you've never seen, well, you never used to you couldn't get the bridgeman out, could you, really?
No.
There was really out that day.
Not a chance.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, right, we hit it bloody good style. 200 ton in it, bang.
Wow.
Sea dredge sand was never liked for building because it's got salt in, obviously. And then it has, I don't know if it's because they got it washed better or what, like, but the laws changed that. Everybody liked Trent sand. If you was a builder in whether it was Hull or anywhere, Trent sand was the best. You know, it was good quality stuff. So that's what most of your buildings were built with, and roads. And then obviously sea dredge sand was coming in at such commodity for basically a third of the price. But they was never allowed to use it on roads. And then obviously when they started using it on roads, it basically shut all your, sand companies down more or less overnight. So we'd gone from a massive concern of moving, sand to one barge working in the end. And we used to run to Scott Street Bridge, till what used to be Tilcons. In the end, the barges just totally collapsed. And when you think all this work and all these barges, I mean, let's just say we was running 10 barges at any one time. It all come to an end like Nobody ever told us the job had finished. I mean, on the last job we had the Tilcon job. I remember the skipper going in to get the boat ready, and the lads at the yard says, "Oh, you're taking the barge away from the yard?" So I says, "Well, no, so I'm getting ready for away." He says, "You haven't got another trip?" He says, "It's all coming in by road now." Yeah, nobody's told us.